Hello there, this is the A&Y Pony and welcome to another episode of Crepuscularity Discussed. Today's topic is the most effective traits of our antagonists we had seen so far in the show. And today with me, as usual, good old Byter.
Blarg.
And for the first time with us is Rutkowski, aka Root. Hello Root.
Okay, we go with Emil.
Emil, okay. Then welcome to the show, Emil. And for the very first time, Miss Fortune. Hello, Miss Fortune.
Hello.
So, because you two guys are first time on the podcast, would you like to tell us what you regularly do? Emil, want to start?
Yeah, I started recently a podcast where I discuss the thematic subjects, lots of headcanon about history, religion. I'm going to later on work on the psychiatry of the main characters and ongoing themes throughout the show instead of doing episode reviews and similar stuff.
Okay, and how about you, Miss Fortune?
I'm a writer over on FIM-fiction.net. I've been kind of working on some fanfics here and there, but I'm also a founder of a large review group over there called the Equestrian Critics Society. Basically, we have people submit reviews to us and stories to be reviewed, and me and one of our 6 critics kind of give it an in-depth review as well as a bit of a promotion, so we tell people to read it.
Okay.
So on and so forth.
Sounds good. I'll put the links to both your channels into the description for this podcast later on YouTube. Before we get to in the actual topic, one short announcement, because we came up with something new for you guys. Last week, Byter and I tried a new thing, like turning on the stream after the actual podcast once again and opening the Hangout for random guests and continuing the discussion open-end. And yes, we did this last week and we are going to make this a thing. So today, after the official podcast, stay tuned, maybe join us in the Hangout and continue talking about the most effective traits of our antagonists. And okay, to start the topic, I would suggest we start with the rather small antagonists and work our way up to the bigger ones, because I guess the small ones can be dealt with quite quickly. And
What do you mean by the small ones?
Like, for example, Babseed, Gilda...
Babseed's a villain?
An antagonist.
He's an antagonist.
It's an antagonist. We didn't call the podcast villain for a reason. Because I guess as soon as we get to, let's say, the most recent villain, we will kind of get hung up there, I believe. Okay, so yeah, let's start small. Babseed. I would say good trait about her is, when you can say it, she is a bully, if not a too good bully. I don't know. Any ideas?
She must have learned a lot from her time in Manhattan.
I would say, the episode, it did really well up until the flute scene at portraying Babseed as a simple antagonist. For me, the interactions between the CMC and their change in the song all sold me on what Babs was doing to them, without showing Babs too much doing the actual bullying.
Yeah.
So they obfuscated the actual meanness of bullying, but still had that effect happen to our main characters, and they did so via the song and how the CMC acted. I don't think actually Babseed was that strong as an antagonist by her actions. That she during the float scene, sort of like that when the 2 bullies come in and she's revealed to be a bully herself. It's all right. She kicks the thing and they're upset that the thing got rolled away. But that's sort of all that her level really went to. That she I'm not sure. She doesn't seem that directly antagonizing, and the depth they tried to allude to with the hiding of the flankness kind of got messed up towards the end.
Yeah, it's a little bit too less, I believe. Yeah. I think I'm trying to remember. Gilda was also primarily just a bully character, just being mean, while I don't know. She was also. I would say Babseed for some reason kind of worked better than Gilda because Gilda was just, I guess, a bit too cliche.
Yeah, the thing about Gilda is that she had nothing going for her. With Babseed, you could notice early on that something was wrong, but yeah, with Gilda, she's just bad entire episode. She's so extremely one-dimensional. It's pretty much baby step issues in the show.
Well, isn't that similar? I mean, Babseed was basically quite one-dimensional throughout her episode. They didn't spend much time giving her any obvious ambivalence during that episode. It might have been interesting if they had her really friendly to the CMC from whenever the other two bullies weren't around, and then she would do a personality flip 180, and that would leave them to be confused about her background. But as it was, she was a bit awkward around the CMC and basically joined the bad guys from the start. She didn't have that extra dimension for the majority of that episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Byter on that one because she just didn't really have much going for her, in my opinion. She was she could have had a little bit more build-up to make it a bit more surprising. And not to mention, I think it felt a little forced, just kind of how some of it came across. It just kind of got an unnecessary exaggeration of the whole bullying nonsense. I thought it went a little overboard. And then the rationalization at the end, it didn't feel quite justified. And I'm not sure what could have been done to fix that, but there could have been, basically what the other guy says, that they could have built her up as a more relatable character. And
yeah, I think there would have been much better chance if they had ambivalence to her actions, so that the final twist of her being bullied back at home and she's actually a tragic character actually had some resonance with us. But as it stood, she was a very good antagonist who then we're told is deep.
I can't even call her an antagonist because I just don't think she was built up that much enough.
Well,
she could have been.
Antagonist is simply the guy who works against the protagonists, and
it's someone who, well, I mean, it's like you could say it's someone who antagonizes you, and I think that episode was about bullying, and bullying is antagonistic in nature. Think of the scene when Sweetie Belle cries. I would argue that she has been antagonized in some form.
Well, I think part of it is also that I think bringing in Babseed is a bit of an non-necessity, considering we've already had Diamond Tiara for that role. So it's just kind of a wonder why we didn't explore that a bit more. And just trying to accept this new character, I think, was part of the problem.
Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon are actually antagonists throughout the show, and they are really one-dimensional, very Gilda-like. In just they are purely antagonistic without much depth.
I just realized I would totally have forgotten about those two.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're so forgettable. I think what they wanted to do with Babseed was make her a deep, or at least a turnable antagonist, to make her join the good guys. It's just a shame, though, that the majority of the episode didn't build that up.
Yeah, she was too good. She was too good at being bad, and then just became good without,
the thing is, I'm not saying she's a very well written villain. I think she's better than Gilda, but not very well written. My main my main issue is if she were bullied back at Manhattan, then she should have seemed a bit more reluctant, especially since later on, as they show in the song and later on in the episode, they show that she's the initiator of the bullying, rather than pushed on by Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, which kind of seems out of character considering her background.
Yes. Totally agree. There should have been a time where the other two bullies bully the CMC like by damaging the float or something, and she's absolutely fine with this. But when they start making fun of blank flanks, then she starts being hesitant. There could have been very much a scene like that. But as it was only the rump bump sugar pump lump thing and the tail hiding.
So yeah. Okay, let's try to move on to a little bit more dimensional antagonists. If I'm not forgetting anybody else, like Silver Spoon, Diamond Tiara, I guess the next biggest one would be Trixie. I'm not sure, at least power level-wise.
Trixie is of a similar light to the others, in the sense, in her episode, she's always portrayed as the antagonist to Twilight and the main six. And that's really how the episode played it out.
Yeah, but she's not really a typical bully, because if you think about it, there is a reason why she is so popular, because people are able to see more in her than just being a jerk who comes to town and bullies the people.
Well, the thing is, at least in the show, is she doesn't bully them, but the name of the episode and what she does is she's very boastful.
Yeah.
And she's all about claiming to be the best mayor in Ponyville, which is, if caring about race in the show is sort of kind of odd, that she's putting on so much of a show about something that nobody really would normally care about. Often, the main complaints I hear about the episode, and particularly about Trixie, is that, yeah, she is a show pony, and we don't know how much people can actually... it's obviously a show, what she's doing. So why are they so antagonized by this? And the answer is that they didn't think about it. And the answer is that all he wanted to do was make her really boastful. So he did that by making her a really showy character.
I have to kind of disagree with this, because I think one of the main strengths behind Trixie is just because of how much she contrasts Twilight. And I think that's kind of what makes her character so interesting, is just because it's a more character-on-character sort of rivalry. And
I'm not sure.
I just think that the more personal it was, I think that's what made her a bit more of a more three-dimensional character compared to something like that.
She played as an opposite to Twilight, in the sense that Twilight was, in that episode, at least still socially regressive and still quite humble, and Trixie is all out there and claiming to be superior to everyone else. That doesn't add to Trixie's character, it just makes her different from Twilight, that both of them are people who talk about their magic in different ways.
True. So I'd say that her actual character is a little weak, because obviously we don't know much about her, and there's not a lot to go on other than we need reasons to hate her. Jot them down right there in the list. But in my opinion, she just makes a good villain, because just how she butts heads with Twilight, and I guess that's what just makes her interesting antagonist to me.
I wouldn't even really call her a villain. She's really just more antagonism. What I think kind of works for her, at least when I saw it the first time, I was like, sure, I realized it was a show, but I also could share the annoyance, because even if you put on a show, just humiliating everybody in the audience and being mean to them is not part of a good entertainer. So I
don't know, there's plenty of comedians that do that.
Yeah, they do, but the thing is, because most recently, I believe, Digi and who was the other one who declared, CBD, they both declared Ghostbusters the one worst episode, the only one they don't like. And their main argument was like, it is a show, she's just putting on a show. But when you do a show, and this show pisses the audience off, then you do a bad job, and so you are still, not putting on a good show and are kind of antagonizing. So I can relate to the main six in this case.
I think, one thing that's difficult is that we don't, she's putting on a show, but we don't, it's quite early in the season, and even now we don't have much to judge what putting on that show means in Equestria. How normally they do shows, or how the audience normally is receptive to it. The way it was portrayed, though, was just that people were annoyed by her claiming superiority above the others.
Well, then again, it was more like it was more or less the main six, and not so much the audience as we could tell from Stips and Snails.
Yeah, it was mostly told through the main six. But the main six, the people, the protagonists, the one we're following, are the ones who are annoyed by her actions for said reasons.
Mm. Well,
the other thing I was going to say, though, is actually there is one thing also to say. We're talking about the positive points about the characters.
Yes.
I'd say
effective traits.
Trixie's amazing thing about her, the reason I think that partly why she was so interesting to the fandom, was that she was so charismatic that during the first episode, she completely dominated the episode when she's on screen. She's just like, "Hi, it's me! The great and powerful Trixie, look at me do something." So she, even if she, the portrayal around her was a bit odd, I think people still remembered the really ridiculous, remembered her speaking style, remembered what she did and how she affected the others in the Ursa Minor. And the other thing is that because people were so engaged by this character, that one line where she refers to herself in the first person, she says "I." It sort of hinted at a deeper character, and people took this charismatic person and added an entire realistic background to them, or tried to, or just took Trixie and paired her off against Derpy, or in comic books or whatever. Her charisma was a really strong part of why she was so memorable as a character.
Mm. So, is there any of the smaller ones I'm forgetting before we move on to the big
we haven't
ones?
really talked much about Trixie's return, but then again,
It's just the amulet.
That would be a good point.
The thing is, she's wearing the Alicorn amulet through the whole thing, so she's just basically the bad guy again.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's got nothing wrong for her because it's not really her personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't tell where she ends and the amulet begins, or however much the amulet is influencing her behavior. Beyond maybe her recalling of what happened between seasons 1 and 3.
We might as well be saying the amulet is the antagonist.
Yeah, kind of. It is. Because it's not really Trixie anymore. So, what are the effective traits of the amulet? It makes your eyes glow.
It supercharges you, and when you're putting it onto the charismatic Trixie, you had some at least mildly amusing scenes, like when she was screw wheels.
I don't trust in wheels. Yeah, but it is actually, now if you think about it, if you just take, for example, the Ask video I did as a reference, the idea of this amulet corrupting the character of a person is something people enjoy. They are like, oh yeah, put the amulet on this person or on this one. So yeah, I guess this is something in favor of the amulet, that it has this corruption aspect to it.
Yeah, the problem with
put it on the pony, watch what happens.
Yeah, the problem with Amulet was that they put it on someone who they've only seen once, and that was a stage act. They should put it on someone like I suggested in your YouTube video related to the Amulet. They should put it on Sikora or someone else that, sure, can be a background pony, but at least that people know more than just short snippets of.
I think it would have been, if they're going to use it more, it'd be interesting if they expanded its mechanics beyond just the more you use it, the more crazy you get. If it did something very specific to you, then the effects it would have on you is going to be different, and it would reflect the person's character.
Any Tumblr theories, anyone?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just in this regard, one of the many theories I got in the comment section of mentioned video was that, yeah, it is corrupting you over time so much that Sombra, Nightmare Moon, Discord, every villain was actually created by the amulet at some point in the comments.
Okay, I can't say for Discord, just let me throw that out there.
The only thing I would say, though, is it's demonstrated, though, that when you take the amulet off, you lose its power in that episode. Yeah. That when Trixie takes it off and puts on the supposed better amulet, her powers are back to her normal levels.
Yeah, but we don't know. She only wore it for quite a short while. We don't know what would happen if you wear it for, I don't know, a year or something, if there would be some actual changes to your body and your mind. So, up for speculation. We don't know. There's a lot of possibilities.
Well, if there's always it's just though that Discord, Nightmare Moon, and Sombra are very radically differently twisted people. And while it could be true, it's really, if we're going to use the amulet again, it's better if we add a dynamic element to it outside. If we're having it in the show, that for example, you could actually fight the amulet's effects. If there was some, if it was like you had in a resolve or in a conscience of who you were, that would help you fight the amulet or something. Then that could at least play into someone's arc.
Yeah. Actually, also this was mentioned in the comments. Somebody had the idea that Luna should put it on, and while they fight a renewed Nightmare Moon on the outside, we switch into her mind where she fights off the amulet. But okay, I guess enough of the amulet by now. Yeah. Is there another smaller...
Amulet is best antagonist.
Yeah, even so it is not really antagonist in itself. It just makes good, creates good. Nevertheless, is there another smaller one before we move to the big ones?
There's not like Iron Will.
Yeah.
I can't say Iron Will as much. I can't say Iron Will is an antagonist.
He is an antagonist. He's not a villain.
No, he doesn't really work against Fluttershy. He's more of a sort of an odd support role that Fluttershy bounces off of. I can't really technically call him an antagonist.
He makes money on do-it-yourself courses. He's pure evil.
Gilda?
Well, he is at least forceful when he's trying to ask for his dues, for his money, when from Fluttershy.
By the way, are you already on the dictionary looking up the exact definition of antagonist?
Oh, that would have been good.
It's just someone who's antagonizing or something like that. I was just bringing up the character wiki here so I can remember all the things. The Diamond Dogs.
Ooh, right.
Ooh, yeah.
Another one-shot baddie.
I did actually like their unique design in the sense that it's this whole show is about doing it in a fantasy universe, so it's always fun when they take and make an antagonist, a completely original-ish antagonist, and throw them up against our heroes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
they were competent antagonists, and they had, horse to back up their words. I mean, they had some small military. They had a good defensive system that would have worked against anyone but Twilight or Rarity. I mean, they were competent, and they are a couple of antagonists I could see return without it being, outdrawn. They could be developed more.
Yeah, and they actually also had a kind of interesting character theme going for them, like the speech patterns and stuff like this. More or less a uniqueness Byter already mentioned. So this is something that sets them apart from more casual baddies like Babseed, who was just another Philly pony with a crazy hairstyle. Just another nice one I saw in the chat, Angel Bunny, antagonist.
Oh, yeah.
It's
a super villain of the series.
Certainly antagonizes the audience more than anything. And Spike, I guess, in the most recent episode.
And earlier ones.
Yeah.
And antagonizes Fluttershy when
slap it around. She doesn't bother with that.
I think to give my views on Angel Bunny, he's a bit of a jerk, and at the moment we have no reason to really care for him, or a reason why he's Fluttershy's leading pet as such. We sort of want. I think what might be a nice addition, at least, would be if they made Angel Bunny have a redeemable aspect. At the moment, he's just irredeemable.
I don't agree on that. I mean, in the Ticketmaster, he's shown to be the one that actually drives Fluttershy on.
And let's not forget the Iron Will episode when, was it the Iron Will episode? No, it was Ponyville Confidential when they were trying to keep the CMC out. So Angel Bunny's proven to be a pretty good protector, so I'd say that's one redeemable quality.
Yeah, he's an abusive husband, pretty much.
I believe he's just a dick. He is not really bad, he is just a dick.
I think there's not enough emphasis given on him helping Fluttershy, or like, why the hell does she keep him around if he is so abusive? He is so needy, and there's no obvious trade-off when he's being so needy, I think. Sometimes in episodes we do see him actually helping Fluttershy, and in other episodes we see him being a jerk, but he's always at the forefront. He's always like on screen when he's being a jerk, and him being a friend is a bit more backgroundy. It's a bit more, we see him handing her something, or helping her somewhere, or just opening the door and answering it for her.
Or trying to keep her to stay on time. Let's not forget that one.
Oh yeah. Good old Alice in Wonderland reference. The chat reminded me, Flim Flam Brothers. Totally forgot. I am perfect. I am perfectly prepared as every week. I totally got my stuff together. Thanks, chat, for saving my ass. Flim Flam Brothers, go.
They're fun, but I don't hope they did. I hope they don't return because, they were a one-shot. I don't think they can fit the return because they had one motivation, that failed. They really have no reason to come back.
Also, the thing is, when we talk about effectiveness of antagonists, I think the Flim Flam Brothers are terrible ineffective as antagonists because they don't really make sense. I mean, Iron Will does make more sense. He's a businessman, he is doing his thing, and he is all about being, standing up to people even if it goes too far. But they are just coming to town, making an offer, and they are presented as antagonists, but they are not. And why? Every time I watch this episode, I'm like, why am I supposed to dislike them? I mean, yes, they are. Why? I don't get it. They have the machine. They say, "Hey, do you want to produce more cider?" And they are presented as being, flimsy. As their offer, it's shown that their offer is bad, but it isn't. It's just presented as evil.
I think it's educating younger audiences in the fine, realistic words of corporations.
Yeah, they're Walmart.
That's pretty much what they are. But I thought they were fairly good antagonists because they can represent some fairly accurate corporations where they're just trying to expand their business or trying to make a lot of money. So it's realistic in that one sense, and I do unfortunately agree with Emil though, because they are kind of one-shotty. Even though I do like how they kind of came in and tried to make themselves very competitive. Very competitive kind of.
My main problem is that the only reason they are antagonists is because Applejack makes them antagonists. They wouldn't even have a way into the town if it weren't for the Apple family letting them use the Southern orchards. It makes Southern fields. It makes no sense for them to do that. Okay, if we win, we win. If we lose everything. If we don't play, we still win.
Yeah.
Actually, there's some I'm going to agree with you there because they don't haggle. What is up with that?
Yeah.
They got an opportunity to haggle, but no. Sorry about it.
The difficulty with the whole analyzing them thing is the whole episode's predicated on some really flimsy economics and twists and turns, and they didn't really form meaningful antagonists the way that a competitive other business could have really done so. I will say that they were charismatic again, that they put on a good show and a good song.
Yeah.
They weren't actually shown as that flimsy. They were more just sort of, in the end, shown as retarded.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
They are presented as con men, as frauds, but their machine does actually work. They are even a reference. I believe they are a reference to some musical number in an old movie where somebody jumps on the soap, sings a song like this, and gets the crowd on his side. But he is actually a fraud. But they are not. They have a working machine.
It was the same movie that inspired the monorail and Simpsons, of someone coming up and giving a grand show of something that they didn't actually have plans to build. But in this case, the Flim Flam brothers actually do have their machine, and it works.
Yes.
And it's fast superior.
And until the Apple family started cheating, they were the Flim Flam brothers were actually winning fair. So.
They were winning, but just sitting on their asses.
Sorry,
The
Emil, but I
title of
cut
the
you off.
episode is, let's stick with tradition because that's all we know. Don't ever involve.
Don't ever innovate. Well, I just ask for your friends to come along and blah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the whole thing was predicated on some bet that Apple Bloom made that everyone just sort of went along with. What? It didn't. The whole thing doesn't make sense under logic when you start looking there. And there could have been ways you could have made it work. Like a comparison would be between the cold hard efficiency of big supermarkets and the small
How about
local
corporate
industry.
sabotage? That would have been definitely interesting.
They could have done that. I'm just saying though that like there's something to be said for like those local businesses being beaten by the big, huge supermarket chains in today's society, or being outcompeted and needing to innovate. Instead, the Apple family are shown as traditional, and that this newfangled technology that is superior, by the way, is not the way to go.
Yeah, I think that
I have to
better
disagree with
antagonists,
that.
but not as fun, would have been a relative of the Apples who had some claim to the field, who partnered up with them or something, and started doing that, and then started running the rest of the Apples out of town with his efficiency.
This is why I was saying the whole haggling thing, and that would have definitely made interesting corporate sabotage and made them a lot more three-dimensional, interesting antagonists. But no, let's just go with we don't like your deal. Oh, you don't like our deal? Well, screw you guys. We're going to run you out of business.
They didn't even. Well, it wasn't even the Flim Flam brothers didn't even have any power in the sense they need apples, and the Apple family owns the apples.
That too.
Which is the even monopoly here.
They don't even have an ability to compete yet until they have a source of original resources. But they don't. Yeah, that's what...
It's a very one-sided business, their gig. They didn't think it through very much.
It's the Apple family claims it's one-sided, but yeah, they didn't haggle for it, and I'm not even sure that you couldn't have changed the deal to be something more meaningful. When I was watching it, okay, I couldn't go through the numbers, but here's what I'm saying. They had a huge long queue shown to us like how many times? Like 3 times, and they were only serving like half of it. That means you've got an excess of demand out there. I'm not an expert on economics, but here's the idea. You sell all the Apple you produce for whatever, 200 bits, and then you use that machine to sell to all the rest, and you make another 50 bits.
I believe the problem was the Flim Flam brothers asked for...
They wanted 25%.
I believe the absolute right to sell. They wanted the absolute cider rights, but... Yeah, why? Why? They're just stupid business, bad businessmen.
At the point of the haggling, the Flim Flam brothers are shown to have a very effective machine, are very good marketeers, and they're not antagonists at the moment. No. The only reason they became antagonists was because of Apple Bloom's bet. So, isn't Apple Bloom more the antagonist in that episode than the Flim Flam brothers?
Not looking out for the Apple family's best interest there.
Actually, this was already called in the chat, like Yeah, Apple family is true antagonist. Okay, moving on. Do we have anything interesting to say about dragons or True Blood?
Blue Blood.
Blue Blood.
Blue Blood? No. Dragons.
Okay, go for it. Fire away with dragons.
Ha! I see what you did there.
Oh yeah, bad puns for the win.
They were god awful annoying. Like the dragons that haven't hit puberty yet. It was it was a rather annoying episode because obviously I don't like the whole high school bully kind of nonsense. That jocks, I suppose. Those are probably the most annoying plot devices I've ever seen. So I can't just call them an antagonist. I would just call them a nuisance.
Okay.
Moving on.
Anybody else about dragons?
I found it mildly interesting seeing all their designs. As usual, that it was expanding off the fantasy setting. I didn't care much for them just acting like a bunch of teens. The only thing was of interest is that how they contextualize Spike in that episode, in the sense that Spike's sort of learns how to become like them for a bit and acts more like dragon-y nature. But in the end, Spike concludes that he wants to be a pony rather than a dragon. So whilst they were annoying and boring and everything else, at least they made a good contextualization towards Spike saying, I don't want to be like them and I want to be like the main six, which are the people we watch for the rest of the show.
Yet he still has that stupid dragon code in season 3, so he still, that episode is kind of nullified by more.
That episode is bad.
Well, Dragon Code came out of nowhere and is complete bullshit, but yeah.
We'll get to that later.
Second this.
We should think like Spike is an antagonist, or maybe, Trollestia in the finale is an antagonist.
Blue Blood.
We're getting into some gray areas there.
Anything about Blue Blood?
Blue Blood is not an antagonist.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to say, Blue Blood is... He annoys Rarity, and he eventually antagonizes her. He's not a big part in this one. He's not a big, huge antagonist.
He's as much of an antagonist as a groundskeeper in the same episode. He's a fool, not an antagonist.
The groundkeeper. Yeah. Okay, I believe we are ready to move on to the big ones, aren't we? So...
Gilda's a big one? Gilda is a big one?
We already had Gilda.
Well, briefly mentioned Gilda. We didn't talk about her in depth, I suppose. But,
Well, okay.
She has no depth.
She doesn't have any depth. Not much.
She's just a cliché baddie, but...
I will say, though, to be fair... to be fair, though... she does play a role in the sense that she is already Rainbow Dash's friend, and she is it sort of this is very early on in the season, so we're sort of like, it shows us what Rainbow Dash was in the past, and kind of asks us questions about how Rainbow Dash is going to act with her around her other friends. Okay, she was very one-dimensional, but she did at least have some history and backstory with the others that allowed us to have some interactions for that episode.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
But I just gotta mention, the thing is, if she didn't have a relationship with any of the main six from before, then she would just, I don't know, Twilight would send her to Celestia to put her in the moon cannon.
Probably.
I have a question. Do you like bananas?
Okay. I guess now we can do the big ones, and I guess we just do them chronologically. So, Nightmare Moon. I would say, even so, she didn't got too much to do. I mean, she had she wasn't even present in the first episode. And I believe she entered at the very end, like, ooh, Eternal Night, and to be continued.
She was foreshadowing.
Yeah, it was a lot of foreshadowing, and, well, her magical abilities, quite nice, but yeah, the thing I guess is intriguing about her is the actual troubled backstory that had been there from the very beginning in the introduction. And yeah, it was in the foreshadowing, it was in the build-up, and then yeah, the surprise twist that she was the sister, even though it was mentioned she's the sister in the very beginning. Yeah, I guess this gave her character depth, even though they didn't really went too far into it. But you had the feeling of death being there presented, and he was pretty badass.
I don't quite have as many good things to say about her, because coming from a guy who's written and read fanfics, one of the common things that has come up in alternate universe things is that she fails to account for what would happen if it goes all Eternal Night, and that's kind of a sensitive subject matter, because while it is grimdark, I also thought that in the show I thought it was kind of silly. So what I'm trying to say here is I thought it was a very weak plot device to have her want the whole thing in Eternal Night.
Yeah, we don't. Eternal Night isn't really a clever thing for someone to do.
No.
And she just didn't seem very intimidating to me. I mean, even in some of the stuff she did, it felt like...
She was very passive during the episodes. We don't actually, until the very end, actually fight off against her and talk to her or have much interaction with her. For the most part, it's, first scene, she turns into a thorn. Second, she moves the rocks.
She cuts off a bit of the sea serpent's beard.
Yeah.
My main issue is that the threat of her winning Eternal Night is later repeated in Dragonshy, you know, with the smoke covering at night for 100 years, which kind of, in retrospect, lessens the threat of Nightmare Moon, because it's the same thing, except the other one was only in a single partner, and I don't know, I think it's a weak episode, but once again, it's the first 2 episodes of the series baby steps issues.
She wasn't the primary... she wasn't that important in that story. It was about the main 6. The whole first episode is just about introducing them above all else, and she's foreshadowed and pops up. She's just more used as
a plot device.
A plot device that,
obstacles they need to overcome.
Yeah, and that plot device creates obstacles for the 6 to overcome, which was the whole point of the second episode, for us to see the personalities and particular strengths of the main 5 through that episode.
So here's what I can say, that she was a terrible villain in my opinion, but she at least had some depth, so I guess that's one good thing I could say about her versus definitely Sombra.
We will get to it.
Well, she has hinted depth. I mean, like, she has a backstory and a set of motivations that are described to us. But like I said, with the Eternal Night thing, it doesn't really make much sense, other than she's crazy.
Oh, and as I like to say, the cartoon twirly mustache. She has got a very long one with how she wants to go about making everything Eternal Night. She feels just like a very generic Bond villain, cartoon Bond villain, whatever. And
yeah,
I almost expected her to tie one of the main 6 to a train track. That's what I imagined her character.
Yeah, thing is, in her defense, even later when she's been in show, especially in Lunar Eclipse, okay, pretty much only Lunar Eclipse, because that's the only time she's gotten more screen time, she's shown to be pretty, you know, when she doesn't get what she wants, she becomes spiteful, really spiteful. And that's pretty much the same thing they described in the backstory.
I would argue that, yeah, the only other time we see Luna later is she is shown as incredibly socially awkward.
Yeah, but I mean, when she doesn't get what she wants, she, you know, the spider thing, and it makes them alive to scare the crap out of people because, yeah, they bring dicks to her.
That was a weird scene. I'm not really sure. Like, it was like a lot of the time when she's doing that was the most angry-ish, vindictive scene of her. But the rest was generally like her yelling at people because she didn't understand that yelling at people kind of is upsetting. Which is just it's ridiculously socially awkward, and it's a bit hard to judge someone when they lack so much judgment like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
from the same judgment that went into let's cover everything in Eternal Night and not expect that to do anything bad for plant life, wildlife, and so on.
Yeah, like would she actually realize that what she's done isn't actually helping anyone? I mean, what's the next step up from Eternal Night? Double Eternal Night?
Eternal Light, that makes people go crazy.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, one moment. Yeah. Here in Sweden, when people move to Sweden, it's not the cold that gets people. It's the summers, because it never gets dark in the summer in Sweden. The sun isn't shown, but it's so light, so it might as well be evening the entire night. And that seriously makes people freak out completely. Imagine living like that your entire life.
Well, that's if I don't know. It'd be Nightmare Celestia.
So Celestia.
If it was someone who just did Eternal Light, I'm not sure Nightmare Moon's next step when she realizes Eternal Night is a kind of a bad idea is to do Eternal Sunlight. Blair?
Original.
I think though the way it was phrased was that she refused to put down the moon, which of course doesn't actually stop you from putting up the sun, but bleh. So she would eventually say, okay, I'm going to actually eventually use my power, and she blows the moon. That's all she can do. I guess she could refuse to raise the moon.
Taking my moon and going back home.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But for the most part, yeah, she is just a Bond villain to play off to give us a plot device to fight off against the others. Yeah, the only thing to be said was that she was. I kind of liked the confrontation at the end with Twilight, where Nightmare Moon actually starts doing something a bit more proactive. And
she gets obliterated by rainbows.
Yeah. But at least she actually was finally around and had some. They shared some quips and. She had to shield herself from the light and broke the elements of harmony. At least she did something in the end.
So, yeah.
I don't know. It was the prelude to the very beginning of the show was introducing and showing us the characters
in the
context of and it was to show it was in the context of an action story. And she served that action story functionally enough. A lot of her depth and spookiness was taken out of it because of the EI rating for season 1. So what we've seen is quite a reduced character from what was originally planned.
So, I guess Discord.
Woo.
Who wants to go first?
I could probably say something first. See, I rate the 3 main villains, or at least between Nightmare Moon, Discord, and Sombra Chrysalis, I guess.
Chrysalis.
I'd have to say Discord is a pretty good middle, where we've had Nightmare Moon, I suppose, be a good character, just not a very good and effective villain. Then I suppose on the flip side you have Sombra, where he was just kind of a villain, not a good villain, not a good character.
Yeah.
I think Discord is smack dab in the middle, because he is a great character. He's not very malicious, so I guess that's what kind of makes him kind of more...
Well, if I'd say though, whilst he isn't directly spiteful or evil to our characters, he is very manipulative. He is quite insidious, in the sense that whilst, yes, he isn't trying to kill them or run them out of the country, he is trying to twist them You know, the whole first episode of him is discording them. He is taking our characters and twisting them into a new chaotic form. He's changing who they were. The people we've been watching for an entire season are now meanie heads, or in different ways. That he, even though he hasn't killed them, he has very much damaged or broken their characters for that episode.
So this is that's actually why I say he makes for a good villain, but he makes for a good character just because honestly I can't picture him as the murderous type. I can't. He just seems kind of like the playful trickster, prankster kind of individual, and that's what I think makes him a very fresh kind of villain, where we don't have someone just taking over the world for the sake of taking over the world, because that's overdone. Discord, he's just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
That's what I guess makes him a definitely more relatable antagonist, because that's personal motivations. That is not take over the world for no particular reason.
It was a fun twist to do to our characters, in the sense they are the elements of harmony, and he very much represents the opposite of that. And the point of the show is about friendship, and he literally twists our characters so that they can't be friends anymore. He takes this fantasy world, the Ponyville that we've been watching for an entire season, and literally turns it upside down on its head and does lots of crazy stuff with it. He hasn't, he isn't just a Bond villain seeking to burn and maim the world into his willing or being.
With his twirly mustache.
Yeah, it was a very good, fun twist to the show, in the sense it was a show about friendship, a show about the characters, and he twists the show and he twists the fantasy setting, and in the end, he actually won in his episodes. Discord had he had some power behind him.
He's a pretty unique villain. I mean, so far we were like, oh, the bullies are the typical bullies. Then we had this Nightmare Moon just being, a little bit of the out of control meanie head. When Discord, because that's also the thing, because I went there and was like, hey, he is not really evil, he is chaotic neutral, which makes him already more interesting, because chaotic evil is total cliche. It is really this, this total destruction, total evilness.
Nuke everyone for the shit.
Exactly. And by making him not this completely evil, by just making him a very, very powerful, gambler, kind of, because he puts everything on a gamble. What if the whole thing with discording wouldn't work? He likes to play, and this makes him also extremely interesting to watch, because he is so playful in his evilness.
It's interesting. Like I said, he in those episodes actually won, and he did so not cackling evilly or spitefully. He did it while laughing and having a breeze. There's a big, huge contrast between the antagonist, who is charismatic, enjoyable to watch, and enjoying himself immensely as he does so, compared to what he's actually doing to our main six and the world around them. I will say, though, whilst he is a good character, in the sense, is only because he is so well contextualized amongst the main six and the world they're in. The important thing about Discord is what he does to the main six, what he does to this world. We don't learn anything about his backstory or his motivations, or we don't. The whole story is set from the main six's perspective. It's never from his perspective. There's never a time where we learn about his deep and tragic past, or hear him talk to himself about what he's thinking. He's always good at. He was good as a force of nature, almost as someone you talk to, but you don't actually know what's going on in his head. He was good as an unknown. So when it's sort of what the problem was when he came back, was he was the same Discord. He was laughing, having fun, clicking his fingers and doing stuff. But what he did wasn't so dynamic to the whole main six this time. It wasn't as interesting. It wasn't such a good story about our characters. I think
I'd have to say
Discord.
he was just neuter in that.
Yeah. The thing is with Discord is he needs his strength was how he affected our leads. He was charismatic, sure, but the reason why we remember him is because he did stuff to our leads, not because he was just laughed and had a good time.
I may have to disagree with that, because I think half of his equation is how charismatic he is.
Well, the charismaticness on itself, if you removed what he did to the characters, I would argue is what we had in that follow-up episode. It's all right, but there's no substance behind it. I think it's his charisma amplifies our enjoyment, or at least it contextualizes what he's doing.
But so, his charisma is a very effective trait.
Yeah, I think, though, it's important to note that his charisma is something that is used to amplify his place within the story. That in the end, those two episodes were a story about the characters. Discord was the person they were playing off of, but it's not really his story. It's the main six's story.
As it always is.
At least until Keep Calm and Flutter On, when they try to make it his story, sort of.
Yeah, the problem with that episode, what I say is one time, is that Discord is a chaotic being. And if you're trying to put him through a character arc, we need to sort of, at least at some level, understand what he's going through. But for that episode, you can never tell whether he's just acting to put the main six off guard, or whether he actually feels any genuine emotion. It's hard to make a character like Discord readable. You can't look at Discord and tell whether he's sad, because he might be just putting on it for a laugh. You can't tell when he's genuinely touched, because he might be just doing that to further his own goals.
So we don't know if he's more just malicious, or he's just kind of doing it because like we don't know if he's just doing it just to be a troll, or if he's doing it because it helps him cope. And I definitely would like to see some more of that.
Yeah, the difficulty though is, like I said, we need to have a way to read Discord's character. That if he's trying to cope, then how are you going to show that to your audience? How is that going to be relevant or interesting to your audience? Discord has always been best at what he does in the two episodes where he first featured, and that was just a guy running around having a fun time using his superpowers. There's not much depth or complexity to it. He has got charisma, but in the end, the reason he's there, the reason that he's in the story, why we sort of care, is because he's affecting our characters and our setting. That he, in the end of that, when he won, he sort of upturned the world on its head.
So if I may round that around to what our actual topic is about antagonists, wouldn't you say that ended up making him probably one of the strongest antagonists?
He was very strong in what he did, yeah. Probably one of the strongest thus far, yes.
And I'd have to say he was probably the strongest next to Chrysalis, in my opinion, just because he manipulated them so well and just ended up becoming a really good character to bounce off of.
I must say, I really like how they showed that his manipulations power aren't absolute. Fluttershy, he did manipulate by brute force, Fluttershy, but she showed that you can actually resist his fancy words. Oh dear, I sound like that, yeah. But I like how they show that he can't twist everyone with his words. He has to use brute force at some time.
Yeah. There was some really interesting character moments he generated from his temptations of the main six, and that was what made it interesting, at least for me. That how he, what he did to Fluttershy or Rainbow Dash or Rarity with the gem. It was an interesting while watching it, seeing, oh, okay, what's he going to do? How is he going to tempt them this time? And it at least played off the characters, and we got to see them, him slowly work his way into the main six. And I think the best thing about those two episodes was really the time when he defeats Twilight, as such.
Yeah.
When, yeah,
he did a lot of things.
They do.
He did a lot of things right. I guess that's the point. He was interesting to watch. He had charisma. He was great for the protagonist to bounce off what is most important for an antagonist, because
He was competent.
he was, until his very defeat, because his defeat itself was just like looking goofy, standing still and letting them shoot away. This was kind of,
I will go with him on that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Why do they always get in time trouble at the end of episodes? Why? Take your time for the ending. This is something a lot of people do wrong in media. That when you create sorry, I just want to finish the thought then.
No.
When you create in media, no matter what, movie, series, episode, computer game, book, book as well. But it's in a book it's not so crucial. But first create the beginning, because that's when you get the people hooked. Then create the ending, because that's what the people take away from it. And in the middle there can be weak spots, but not at the ending. This was a problem with Discord's final defeat. It was a problem with Keep Calm and Flutter On. And okay, Byter, you. I guess my point is made.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. In the sense, his temptations and Twilight's final giving upness, and then Twilight's coming back, was the best things about that episode. But the setup at the very beginning, that set up a mystery, so I don't really mind that one. But the ending, it has a difficulty in the sense we're sort of just watching the characters go through the natural routes. In the sense, Twilight has learned that she could instill in others the memory spell, so we just have to watch as she does it to everyone. And then the very ending, it's like the point about the strength of Discord is he is good when he's doing stuff to our characters, when he's playing around with them, when it's about the main six. But they're all together now, they've all got the elements of harmony, so all they've got left to do is walk up to him and blast him with the elements of harmony. I don't think if you lengthen that, there's not much to lengthen, because there's not much going on. The point is they got the elements of harmony and they used them.
I believe somebody, I can't remember who, but somebody actually did, was it Brony Curious? Somebody did go into the ending and explained how it should have been more true to his character, like that he is standing still, that he is taking the risk, but he is trying to persuade them, that he is trying to manipulate them by words again, but he is not getting through and then gets blasted. Right now he's just standing there.
He really should have, I agree. He should have tried to tempt them again, and this time it didn't work, and that would have had way more meaning than just sort of, we're ready to fight now. No, you're not.
Not to mention, I think the memory spell was a really weak time-lapse plot device, because I think what would have made it more interesting is if it was more of a struggle to get their actual characters back, and then seeing Discord come in and try and manipulate them again there at the end, that would have been far more interesting, I'll admit.
I think, I really like the symbolism and the usage of the letters for Twilight when she recovers, because through the whole first season we've been writing all these letters home to our authority figure, to our parent, and sometimes I do like the message of, these things that we've been using throughout the first entire season actually had a point to them. And the memories of, if you guys ever go back and read an old photo book or letters you wrote to your parents and you remember the good old times, that was very much what that scene did. And I really like that, how it contextualized her reading the letters to her recovery.
But I don't think they probably should have done that sort of when she was trying to get her friends back to normal. Instead of just, let's just do a memory spell.
Yeah, I guess
that's what I was saying. that if they did that with all of them, it would have been really good. But in terms of pacing, that episode, those 2 episodes were a bit off. Like, basically 5 of them are grey, and they've just exited the maze.
Yeah.
At the 20-minute mark.
Yeah, here's how I think the pacing went in both of those episodes. It was like, okay, we're going good, oh my god, run out of time. That's pretty much what happened to the pacing.
Time problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they would have kept it the same pace the rest of the way through, I bet that would have easily made the ending a lot better.
Yeah, if they had time for the ending and did some things differently so they had more meaning to the audience, that they used the past like the letters did, that would have been very good. As it stood, though, I still found it a very competently executed episode. It was more like, the memory spells, we got what they were doing, and we that's what we wanted as the audience to happen, to the main 6 to come back to normal and to defeat Discord. Yeah, it's just that the memory spells aren't that meaningful to us. Hint, hint, magical mystery cure.
Oh no, not again. Thank God there was no antagonist in this episode.
Yeah, the only point though is that those 2 episodes' plotline is very similar to Magical Mystery Cure in the sense they get discorded as such. Twilight learns a memory spell and fixes it.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that doesn't really feel like a whole friendship thing, which is kind of what the whole show is about. It just feels more like just find a way to fix things, and there you go, everything's back to normal.
What I'm saying is that the fact that Discord turned them grey isn't what I liked about those episodes. It was the fact that Discord changed who they were and had to do a certain temptation to do it. That was interesting to me as what they did to the characters. And the other thing about it was when they were grey, we saw how Twilight reacted to that. Every single time there's a scene establishing how Twilight reacts to Rarity now having the gem, or something else, where she's going out, girls, what the hell's wrong with you? That's the thing that matters, not the wibbly wobbly magicness.
Okay, 2 more to go. Queen Chrysalis, whatever. There's a lot of
Best
debate.
villain of the show.
Okay, let's just go with advice the chat gave us earlier. Let's call her Queen Cheese Legs, because we all know how to pronounce cheese and legs.
I like that.
Yes. She doesn't actually. The thing is with Chrysalis, it's a bit odd in the sense with Discord, the events that unfolded were due to his doing. It was all very much about his actions. With Chrysalis one, the main engagement of her story is the unknown, at least for the first part. Is it sets up a mystery story. And for the second part, it sets up an action story in the sense, oh gosh, bad guy, run around, try and beat them.
You got 2 villains for the price of 1.
What I'm saying though is basically all Chrysalis has sort of done was, she infiltrated the place first, which created the mystery part for the first episode. And then for the second episode, she revealed herself, won against Celestia, and then stood around in the wedding room for the entire episode.
Yeah. There's the mustache
That's what happened
again.
in the second half. That's what happened in the second half.
Yeah, if I might interject there. Thing is, she stands around a lot, but you have to remember she had just defeated Celestia. I don't think that takes a small amount of power. I think one can be pretty exhausted after that. And of all the villains, she was the one who actually used strategy, Leonid. Yeah, he has a same problem with me. He talks too loud. But I mean, she has intel. She uses stealth. She has military power to back up. Even when her plans are foiled, she's still about to succeed. Except she missed one part of the entire attack, and that was the Twilight. Her antagonist Twilight. who were pretty much the only thing that could have stopped her. But by that time, I don't know, okay, yeah, Twilight probably had some name recognition, but no, I don't think she was, that hugely known. So she was by far the most effective villain because she was the one that used strategy and intelligence instead of just innate magic.
I strongly agree with Emil here because I thought she was a fantastic character because she was intelligent, she had smarts, she had confidence, which was something I found kind of interesting. Like, not the... It didn't go a little too overboard, at least until a little later on in the second episode, but I did like just how a manipulative character she was and how effective she was at it. Because, I don't know about you guys, but at the end of the first part, I was actually convinced that Twilight was wrong for at least a second. Because just how well...
Yeah, many had that.
Yeah.
And then again, that's what also made it all such a very touching scene. But then we did get to the second half where she did get a little too twirly mustache.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say, well, first let's just talk about, like, the first episode of the Chrysalis episodes. And I would say that she's not actually that, if she is being so manipulative, well, she's being a bad actor. It's just only Twilight can see it. In the sense, like, okay, it's not in her nature to be a nice person, it seems. That she's actually an evil person underneath. And she does some fake sincerity stuff. But it's blindingly obvious to the audience, and it's blindingly obvious to Twilight.
Well, I think that's just because we're in the perspective of Twilight most of that episode, so we're supposed to kind of see what she sees. And I think that's kind of the whole state of it. If we were seeing it like from Applejack or Rainbow Dash's perspective, then we wouldn't have had a problem. We would have thought that was her natural character. But I think part of it was that only Twilight knew who her character was, and just because we were in Twilight's perspective, that's why we were able to just kind of see Chrysalis as a bad actor.
I believe, I believe it's a thing that she is, that it is the bad argument, the kids show argument, that they had to kind of make it give something away, make it a bit more obvious for the younger viewers that there is something not going right. If it also the fact that we did never know Cadence until now, while Twilight knows her so good that Twilight as a character would actually realize even small differences in her behavior, but we as a viewer couldn't just have small differences, we needed something bigger so to realize that, oh, there is something wrong with her. But if she was a good actor, then there wouldn't be all that suspense in the first episode, and it would just sort of be us watching her doing stuff. Yeah, or it would be Twilight being paranoid or over very, very small things nobody in the audience could relate to.
So pretty much every other episode. No. Thing is, you have to consider who do we know, who shows up in that episode. Do we know Cadence personally? It's Twilight Sparkle, it's Shining Armor, and it's Celestia. And Celestia, she's the ruler of the entire realm. She probably has other things on her mind too. Shining Armor is brainwashed, and then it's Twilight Sparkle. So it's obvious, because we have seen the backstory segment where she's not bad. But I don't think it's obvious. I mean, as you mentioned, how would the other main six, how would they notice that? They've seen a short part where, she's faking in sincerity, but she's doing it decently enough as to not seem like a complete asshole, just a stressed out bride.
One thing to note.
Actually, let me just bring this up real quick. Throughout the entire first segment, we were led to believe it was just Cadence just being a changed character. We weren't, and just that's what we kind of were led to believe, that she was just a different character. But we had no idea that it was a changeling. So I think that's part of what made her performance sell really well, because she put on a good Cadence as if she were a bit more of a sour character, not letting out Chrysalis completely out of the bag. And I think that's what made her an effective actress and manipulative villain, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a question of how obviously manipulative it was. You know, like you said at the ending, and I know exactly what you're talking about. At the ending of the first episode, you're like, oh, actually, she might actually just be, you know, a little bit grumpier this time. So there is a lot of ambivalence to the audience that we're not sure whether Twilight's right about this.
I don't know what she's right about.
Yeah, the thing is, we as the audience don't know enough. We just know that she's acting very mean-headed and did that spell thing. And the mean-headedness, we can sort of say, you know, she's just acting a little bit mean today because it's near the wedding. But the spell thing on that scene was actually explained as, you know, she came up with a very good excuse, wasn't it?
No, it was Shining Armor who explained it.
It was Shining Armor, yeah. He said, oh, I need to use the spell, and
it was
that's why my eyes.
convincing.
Yeah. So in the end, I think, yeah, that manipulation was sort of, yeah, she wasn't such a good actor, but it wasn't enough to convict her. And the one time she was actually Twilight had any evidence, the twirly eye thing.
Twirly mustache.
Yeah, had the was that when it was explained away by Shining Armor. So we still can't prove that she was a chrysalid. So if nothing else, she may have been a poor actor, but she was good enough to not be an obvious changeling that Twilight or someone else couldn't have told the signs.
Yeah, I guess she is. I think also she is one of the better villains out there for the already named reason. Because in the first part she does the infiltration thing well. She gives this mystery. Byter already said, and well, afterwards she becomes the mustachy twirly thingy. And just stands around and gloats. She becomes a little bit too cliche, but she still has two aspects going for her at this point. It was fun. She kind of had one at this point. She could. It was stupid. It was a typical villain error, just standing around and not finishing the job properly. But yeah, you could kind of see she won. Canterlot was hers at this point. Yeah. And
well, that's the thing. That. The end of the first episode, she sends Twilight to the dungeon, and that's a really, really great cliffhanger. Excellent thing to do with the antagonists too. You know, we had the suspense, and we got the reveal, and we know now that she is the bad guy. So in terms of storytelling and what she did, that was the right move to do for the end of the first episode. If it sort of ended with Twilight on the stairs, it would have still been kind of emotional, but it wouldn't have that big, huge punch to the gut that sending it to the dungeon had.
What the fuck just happened?
It's like, oh, my feels, and it just punches
yeah, yeah. This wouldn't have worked if this would have happened at the beginning of the next episode. Yeah.
The next episode, though, is I will say it's not. She doesn't immediately reveal herself. There's still the there's the whole when she's singing in the dress scene. Is because we now know that she has some plan, but we don't know what the plan is because she hasn't revealed it. All we know is that she's insidious in some way.
Yeah. We still think she's just a mean alicorn. Kind of, because that's all we know. We know she's an alicorn. She is obviously evil for some reason, but we cannot. We have still no idea what is going on.
We don't know what she is at all yet. All we know is it's either until the next episode. All we knew was that it was it was someone masquerading as Cadence, or Cadence was now evil. But pretty quickly we meet the real Cadence, so it's obvious that it's someone pretending to be Cadence.
Yeah. Continue.
I was just going to say her role as the villain. Then she is still doing her plans, and that was sort of the whole thing. The whole impetus changes to, oh no, what's going to happen to what's going to happen at the wedding? Something big's going to happen, and we don't know. So the episode's still about the unknown, but it's still not really Chrysalis's strength. strength as a character. It's more just we don't know anything about her.
Yeah, but this is an effective trait, kind of. Also, just because the chat brought it up multiple times, even so it's not really a trait of her as an antagonist, that she is actually the leader of an army, that she has a lot of minions, which none other villain or antagonist in the show had, except you count the goats from Iron Will, even though he's not this much of an antagonist.
Well, she just sort of stands around though, until Twilight finally goes, oh, she is actually evil, I got the real cadence here. And then she reveals the trump card, I think is the that we've had the gut punch from the end of the first episode, but now the plan's up, the gig is up. What is Chrysalis doing? And it's revealed that she has immense magical prowess due to Shining Armor's love, and yes, she has an army.
Yeah, thing is, her adaptability is her main strength. She had a plan for everything, then comes the sister, who is apparently a pretty strong individual of her future groom, and then when she returns, she still is prepared for everything to go to hell every moment on the way. And I don't think that the throne room scene at the end, as I mentioned, I think she's resting up a bit, and she has won. She has pretty much won because Celeste is defeated and she was the only real threat. The army is scattered. Her minions are tearing up the streets. There's pretty much only the 6 captured ponies left, and she, with reasonable explanation, thought she had them under control. So I don't consider that scene to be, standing around with a target on his on her head like many of the other villains. I think it's the most natural defeat.
Yeah, after having defeated
I have to agree with him there because she definitely earned her victory. Like, she had gone through the infiltration. She had pretty much worked up the master plan. She sold everyone on what her character was, and she pretty much had the plan done.
She defeated Celestia one-on-one.
Yeah,
this is quite
the one thing I will say though, it's not really shown much that she has much planning involved. More so that's just from the very beginning she's already infiltrated, and she just carries on being infiltrated and pushing aside those who get in her way.
Yeah, that's what I mean with adaptability. She has plans and she's ready to adapt them.
Yeah, she was certainly a good adapter, but she wasn't a... She had a plan and it worked. I don't think it makes her a super mastermind or showed that she had hundreds of plans, as you said.
I thought it made her an interesting character overall because how she pretty much won up to that point.
Yeah.
And it made her overconfident. And that's something I like, is her... she got everything, she got overconfident, and that's what made her lose.
One thing to note, though, is like her beating of Celestia wasn't planned. That she is actually mildly surprised that she defeated Celestia.
And that's a layer of personality. If you pick away that details, that's something I like, as well as the overconfidence. And not to mention, she is selfless, if you think about it, because she said she is going there to get food for her subjects. It's not just because, I'm twirly mustache villain, wanted to take over the world. It's because she's genuinely trying to look out for her people. That's what also gives her a lot more depth than even Discord. So this is why I think she's a terrifically balanced character, in my opinion.
I think, it's not particularly she has a motivation, is her thing. She has a clear motivation that we can understand, that she is finding food for her subjects. With Discord, he was always just... laughing, having fun, pure randomness. You can make Discord do whatever you want as long as it wasn't too violent or capricious. But he just did whatever the hell he felt like. With Chrysalis, on the other hand, she was established in that episode to have an agenda, to have motivations and reasons for doing this, for winning against our heroes. It doesn't make her super deep. It doesn't explain her whole backstory or how she thinks of her changelings or what she thinks of the pony kind. But in the most basic level, she thinks of her changeling as her children and the ponies as food. it's not particularly deep. It's just it's actually a backstory that makes sense.
Well, what I didn't mean like necessarily like 20 feet below deep. I'm saying like she was a bit more deeper than pretty much most of the villains, considering just how she had motivation. She had background. She had a lot of things going for her, and we can see just things she likes, dislikes, just from the little quips we see from her as Cadence. And that's something a lot more that can be said for her than the other villains.
I know that's off topic, but is there a kitten in your background on the sofa? Behind the Who Is It game?
Yeah, he's playing
There is.
3 with his uncle.
No, not in your place. In Miss Fortune's place, there's a small kitten on the sofa, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's my cat, yes.
Sorry.
We're on the internet. Kitten.
Exactly. This kitten alone will make this 20 likes for this video.
Oh yes.
Yeah. There was one other thing. She's not extremely deep, but on the other hand, what other character who has only appeared in 2 episodes is as deep or deeper than her when it comes to character development?
Well, she doesn't have development. She's doing her plan.
Exposition.
Minor development, I have to say, just because she got overconfident up to the end. Because we saw her
she's
just
singing
kind
out
of
the window.
doubtful and not sure. Yeah, the singing out the window was a little strange, but I'm talking like in the first bit. We've seen just kind of how iffy she just kind of is about something else.
I've learnt if I sing at random intervals, I become stronger. I shall sing! What the? No!
Works for
Yeah,
PewDiePie.
I guess we can count the singing as an editorial thing in the series, and that the queen is not actually standing in the throne room and singing.
Extra weird is that she's continuing where her old song left off. So it's just continuing a monologue in the middle of the sentence. And then that's it. If nothing else, it would probably have creeped out Cadence a lot, because she would sing on the same song and then suddenly Christmas is singing on it. Okay, what the hell are you doing?
I once saw a comic where it was shown only from the cave's perspective. So, Cadence is like running along singing, and Twilight's just sort of looking at her a bit weirdly, and then it suddenly stops and they just stand there, completely silent, and Twilight's like, "Are you alright?" And then starts running again.
Well, to be fair, she's been locked in a cave for, I would guess, at least a week or 2, probably more. She will probably turn a little bit insane, considering how quickly Twilight snapped when she's outside her comfort zone.
That's another thing. Just getting back to Brisalis, what I'm saying is there is a bit of development in there, because she's just trying to go through the plan. She's not confident as of yet. She's just putting on a good show. But then, just in that brief second where we see her not confident when she's fighting Celestia, and then just when she's won, that kind of set in stone, okay, I wasn't sure about this whole thing, then now, all right, it's all going well. And I think there was just a minor bit of development there, because she wasn't sure about it from the get-go.
She acted in a different way. That when she is finally defeated, she's just looking out the window, kind of chuckling to herself, and she's not looking at all the others behind her because she thinks she's subdued them.
Confidence.
And in the end, they use Deus Ex Machina to defeat all the changelings.
Well, to be fair, that spell had been shown before to be able to keep out changelings. I don't think it's out of there.
Well, no, before it was only Shining Armor using magicness. But that time it was... It operated a bit differently in the sense that they had that big, huge, glowy heart that then turned into a push away. It didn't turn into another bubble spell. They look very different types of spells.
It would be hilarious if they either A, turn to a bubble spell only around the couple and so guys, we're out of here, or B, turn to a bubble spell, protect the entire city, and everyone.
Or, you forgot option number 3. They create the bubble spell X extending, but it is pushing out everybody.
Yeah. The only thing to be said though is that whilst Chrysalis was awesome in her plan and how this played into a huge mystery story, and she basically won, the conclusion and the way she was beaten wasn't really that meaningful. At least, like, we don't know much about Shining Armor and Cadence, and they're the ones who bring the final magic wibbly-wobbly spell of victory.
But yeah, we kind of had this tendency of MLP to rush the ending out there with something Deus Ex Machina.
Let's just use magic. That's a perfectly good
That's
excuse.
kind of the thing they do.
I don't know if it's relevant, but should I mention the comics? Because Chrysalis is kind of an important character in the first
I've only read the first two, and I hate spoilers, so...
I'm not mentioning the comics.
Okay, but I like them. They're nice, and I like that Chrysalis is back.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're great.
I haven't read them. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
What? You are the only American. You are the only American in this hangout. You are the one who has actual access to those, and you don't know them.
I read fanfics with just words. I don't do comics.
Face wolf. Nevertheless, we got one more villain to cover. We are already at the 1 hour and 30-minute mark, and this one will be big, I am afraid. Hello,
Twilight mustache, no character, end of story.
Oh, okay. See you soon.
Yeah, who gives a damn?
Actually, no. I guess what we probably do agree on is that as a character he is pretty bad. He is intended to be scary, but he is not. But since we are talking about effective traits, yes, he is pretty much the mustachy villain.
Is he
Whatever.
effectively? Are you arguing he's effectively ineffective?
No, I was actually just going for his magic, the tricks, the abilities he has.
What magic? He was a big black wibbly wobbly blob.
Yes, this blob thingy is not
from a black metal concert.
The blob is not the effective part. Also, not his appearance, nothing. No, actually more the kind of traps the thing he's using. The mental control he has over the crystal ponies. The mental control he has over the crystal ponies with this the amnesia thingy he is causing for them.
We're not sure if it's causing though. They actually just say that the memories of it is so bad that they don't remember it.
We see one of the crystal ponies, the first one Twilight interviews, is like, oh, I can't remember. And then we see a flash of Sombra's eyes. It is kind of implied that something Sombra placed by Sombra is manipulating her mind at this very moment. So he kind of has some kind of power over the crystal ponies at this point, which is causing them being emo and stuff.
No, I thought it related to the nature of the Crystal Fair and how the crystal ponies got better when they felt happier and remembered the old times.
Happiness, best weapon ever.
Yeah. Seem to... remember the point with the one crystal character in that episode was the librarian?
Yes,
who
I know.
Got happier and remembered more stuff.
I am not here to defend this episode about being bad written, about Sombra being in general a bad character. I totally agree on all those.
Yeah,
I just
saying,
want
though,
to mention the good aspects that had been invented for him.
But the difficulty I have... the difficulty I have, though, is we're sort of clutching at straws. In a sense, it's not really clear to the audience why the crystal ponies are so amnesiac. They just are, for the most part.
I'm a subscriber of the theory that Sombra is an allegory. I think allegory is the right word for depression, because the depression creeps on, and I don't know. I'm gonna do a video about it later. It's a really long monologue. I'm gonna have to do it to explain it entirely here. But I'm of the idea that the entire thing is about tackling depression. So
then it's not a very good one, is it?
No matter how we spin it, it's not a good one.
I'm just saying, a good way of getting out of depression is your friends and your family helping you up. And I think that would work quite well in a show called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
That probably would have been a better thing for the finale than, let's sing a song and do a number tune and everything will be just fine. Let's do magic wibbly wobbly nonsense. Everything will be just fine. Don't need no actual friendship. Just use magic.
Yeah, but I don't think they can tackle depression as it is. I think that's considered too adult of a subject, which is why they're using, symbolism. So,
But still,
I think
the execution, they kind of tried to visualize the single symptoms, but they did not really do it this effectively, because if Somber really was meant to be depression, then feeling depressed on seeing him and his effect would be actually a way to bring this across. But since they did not do this, because most people were like, oh, he's not this great, so actually he failed on representing depression, in my opinion.
I think what he better represents, like kind of going off of Emil's sort of theory, not depression, but fear. That's kind of the driving force of everything in that episode. You know, the door, how the crystal ponies react, and he's just meant to be an intimidating, scary character.
Fear, at least, is much more appropriate to what our characters actually do in that episode. In the sense, if you are living under a sense of fear, then you're going to act with anxiety and act a bit rushed. But with depression, it more causes you towards doing inaction beyond anything else.
Hey, that's a perfect symbolism for summing up the entire season 3, by the way.
You mean like staying inside their homes entirely and avoiding... and almost avoiding contact.
I would argue in the Crystal Empire there was this thing called the Crystal Fair, which is outdoors and quite an activityness.
Yeah, but without it, look at how they are before and after. The fair is there to represent the, the ridiculation. I can't pronounce it. I can write it if you want, but I can't pronounce it.
The bright side of things.
I don't know. The point they said about the Crystal Fair was it was reminding them of their old traditions. And the way out of depression isn't remembering your traditions. Sometimes people in depression haven't ever had a time where they've been happy. So does that mean they have no way out of depression according to this episode? No, that's some bad symbolism there. No, what we're talking about now, with attempting to see how Sombra has meaning, is adding symbolism to the episode and how he tried to contextualize it. The problem, I think, is that we can swing it any which way we want because he is so undefined and is so not prevalent in that episode that I think whatever symbols you make up, I don't really give a damn.
He was all magic
because
and no
it didn't
substance.
work in the end.
All magic, no substance.
Going back to the actual author's comments on it, well, first they said Sombra equals Salon, which is, as I've said before, retarded. Yeah. The actual reasons they went on after that was that they said darkness is scary, and that I wanted to make darkness, and that was basically it.
I have heard putting a grinning face with glowing eyes on darkness really makes it scarier.
It belies the author and often many people's faults on understanding why darkness is scary. Darkness is scary because of the unknown, and that may be why that in so much in this episode so little is defined. That they wanted it to be another, because it's the same writer, another Canterlot Wedding, where nothing is defined, but the audience is left guessing and slowly the plot is unveiled. The problem was it wasn't dark. It wasn't. There wasn't enough unknown. The main six spend most of their time
because we saw him at the very start of the episode. That might be why.
Maybe.
We know what and who he is.
One easy way to actually make darkness and the unknown actually scary is to take that black fog and put it inside the freaking Crystal Empire. That you're now blundering around the Crystal Empire completely blind, and you get lost from your friends, and things that you hear or see aren't what they seem to be.
Yeah, I would say that it's better to have it spread from the castle outwards instead. So when Twilight Sparkle and Spike goes to find a heart, they had to go and face that very darkness. I would say that I would consider that to be a better...
It might have been,
and that would have played along with the fear door, by the way. That would have been excellent.
Yeah,
if it was all covered
there could have been such, I'm not sure how it would have worked, but like a scary cave, just blackness, but you know the heart's in there, so you got to
No.
barge on through. You know, you have to be courageous and walk in there.
Return of the Jedi.
Or
But
tie
yes,
from...
actually the scary door was one of the other effective traits I wanted to mention. But thanks.
The door,
Yeah,
though...
I found the door to be a good part of the episode.
It was a fantastic part. They just
Yes.
didn't do enough with it.
Yeah.
Not enough. Certainly not enough. It was sort of just, says Spike, and then, says Twilight, and they walk on through.
Yeah, but the
I
idea
had to go right over like thinking that should have been the dark cloud that was in like that could have been what was inside the Crystal Empire. Like what got in through the horn. It would have been everything covered in darkness all of a sudden from that, and then Fear Door everywhere from all the characters. That would have been good.
Yeah,
But then again, that still sums up. It's just all magic and no substance to his character.
The thing is, with Sombra is that he only has a door and a trap. He has only 2 teeth.
And
lacks
a
teeth.
magical tower.
He's got teeth.
Probably. I'm saying though that to have teeth is to have efficacy to actually have an impact on the story or our characters. Instead, he was always locked out, and all he had was... The thing is, even the presentation of the door wasn't really Sombra. It was what he did in the past, ages ago, somehow, for some reason, under a huge flight of stairs. It didn't really ring hard for me that this was Sombra's way of fighting back.
It was just a stopgap.
Yeah, I mean, like, hell, Nightmare Moon, at least, was more proactive than Sombra. And she tried to tempt them and do stuff to them, and it was obvious that was her. She was way more proactive in that story.
Oh yeah, there was one other theory. It wasn't as serious to take it with a huge grain of salt about what the episode would represent, and that's drug addiction. Because, you know, crystals, all that.
Crystal meth?
It's the crystal meth. As I mentioned, not very serious theory. And they're trying to keep up the high all the time before the low comes in, and then comes the crystal hearts. That's the, you know, the really good stuff, and then spreads around the entire world to avoid the dark thing, and seals it away for 1,000 years before it comes back. And yeah, the low comes back.
So the basically, to sum this up though, Sombra's strengths is how little of him was defined.
Yeah.
And so much.
He did I will admit though, he did have a door and did have a conflict trap. It's just a shame though that
they didn't went there. They didn't do anything
He
different.
didn't feel like a constant threat.
No, he didn't.
That was probably another thing.
They tried so hard to make him this constant threat thingy, but they failed so badly. Oh well.
Yeah.
But I guess...
The only threat was Caden's falling asleep.
One thing I always do, is, generally in my reviews though, is even when something fails, you can learn from it and see where the holes are. Like you can always look back in retrospective and see how you could have done it better. The only thing is with the Crystal Empire, it's just everything's so messed up. It's hard to say how you could improve.
Oh well. But I guess we kind of tackled on all the villains or antagonists, to use
Except Pink Pie. Pink Pie is a villain. Season 3. For Horde of Pinkies.
Oh yeah.
Isn't she a villain?
I guess this is something worthy for the aftermath. And talking about the segue. Talking about the aftermath. For everybody who hasn't been there at the very beginning of this podcast, from this week on, or better, from last week on, we are going to continue. The official podcast is about to end, but we are going to continue the discussion, streaming as well. But we are also opening the Hangout for more people to join the discussion. So. I will still host the Hangout. I will let the people join in there, but we have to stop the stream for a moment until the stream will continue from Byters' end. And
Oh dears.
oh dears. It may take a few minutes, but if you are interested in hearing how it continues the discussion and to hear a few more opinions, stick around. The show should continue in a few minutes. I will put up this official podcast on my YouTube channel. Byter will put up the other one, the Aftermath, as soon as it is ready on his channel and make it as a video response to to the actual episode. Also, he did so last week, for example, when you check out my video of Crepuscularity number 13, you will find there is a video response by Byter, which includes a very chaotic first version of the Aftermath with a lot of technical screw-ups on my end. So if you want to have a good if you want to have a few good laughs, go there, check out the description, because Emil here took the time, wrote insanely long and detailed number of time codes, and titled all the time codes, including stuff like, sadly there is no sound because A and Y accidentally muted us while being on the telephone, and stuff like this. So yeah, you can even find the highlights by checking the description. Latinos. But nevertheless, I'm kind of rambling on because I guess a few people are interested in joining. So this was the official part of Crepuscularity Discuss about the Antagonists. And the show will go on in a few minutes with the Aftermath. See you. Thank you to the guests. And thanks to the chat room as well. Bye-bye.